So last week I talked about how what seemed to be being built up was kind of the idea of NPCs dying and staying dead. At least that was based on my interpretation of the grave scene and everything that old Pencil seems to want to do. And ultimately we get the confirmation of this episode 100%. And I think for those who don't play video games, maybe they're like, why is that a big deal? It's not like these characters are real. But I think anyone who's played a story-driven game, even in our current day-to-day world, just Mass Effects, the Biowares of the world. I mean, Telltale is like all about killing characters and breaking your hearts. But even if you don't have experience with video games, take a step back. When your favorite characters or characters you care about die in series you watch or read, you feel something, right? Because you grow connected. Imagine putting yourself in a VR situation where it's almost as real as any sensation around us. And the fact that these characters can actually die and stay dead, it's a lot more impactful than anything that we can even comprehend. Because it's one thing to read or watch something or play something and have a character that we're connected to die and stay dead in that game. We can always restart it, we can always do this or that, but now imagine it in VR where it feels as real as our own world, but you can't just restart anymore because this is an online game. It's not something where you just start a new game and you just get them back. No, like if they die, they're gonna stay dead. And I think that changes everything for the better because it gives it a much more interesting hook without going like the SAO route where it's like, oh, if you die in the game, you die in real life, and then you just, we're forced to take things more seriously than they need to. No, this is the appropriate amount of serious. We have connections to NPCs that are going to feel as real as any of the actual human characters we grow within the show, but at the same time, we're going to allow these characters to be able to die themselves because at the end of the day, it is a video game. And once again, I say Shangri-La Frontier just hit the sweet spot of being not only my favorite video game style anime, just purely focused on the game side, but once again just took itself up a notch in terms of quality. Now I do have a full live reaction to today's wonderful episode over on my Patreon, so if you would like to see my full uncut thoughts, they're over there if you're interested. So this was a very fun episode. We got a floor boss, which was rather cool, especially because, well, the poor suckers in front of our boy ended up having to be the guinea pigs, which allowed us to pretty much get that W, that no-hit run. But we also got quite a bit of kind of like where we're going over maybe the next couple of episodes. So there's going to be a big game update, some new events and everything. But that seems to be the one shot that we're going to try to defeat this unique boss, which here's the thing. Everything that we know about these bosses, they're unbeatable. Apparently they are just designed to not be killed. Of course, you give a gamer a challenge, they're going to find a way to exploit it, especially when the three people that are going to be fighting it are kind of all about exploiting and breaking things and making games their biatch. But I like the idea of making this unlikely party because even if characters like Sunraku or his pal here aren't necessarily max level and maybe the levels you would think you would want to be in a party if you're going up against the best of the best, the fact remains one simple thing. They are skillful. They have more skill than any other players in this game, and that's what matters most, as seen by Sunraku. Hell, like even when he went up against that giant beast, even if he didn't do a lot of damage or any damage at all, we saw what he was capable of by himself on his first go-around. If they have time in preparation, especially because old Pencil Knight over here is pretty much saying like, listen, I fought this thing, I got some information, or at least I know of things about this, they should be able to prepare in a little better. But it's interesting how she specified they had one shot, because as far as we know, these things stick around, like even if you did get killed, but maybe it's something to do with the NPC that clearly died. They definitely hinted at someone dying last week, and I was like, I don't see how it could be a player, because even if a player perma kills or perma dies, right? Like at the end of the day, I don't see why you would mourn that. The only thing that makes sense is an NPC, because NPCs wouldn't be coming back in a game like this unless there's some sort of ritual or magical way to do so, which wouldn't be completely out of the blue because, I mean, if we're in a world where we can do a lot of the crazy things we can, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an event that could potentially revive a dead NPC, almost like tapping into the spirit realm or something like that. But I thought it was interesting because at the start of this episode, Sunraku leaves Emil to basically stay on the ground as he's fighting the spider. And I didn't really think too much of it. I thought it was just like, oh, she'll get in the way. But after hearing the conversation, especially given, Emil's reaction as she's trying to run off to Daddy Dearest, it definitely feels like he's taking this to heart, that if you care about this NPC, you care about your party member, you'll leave her behind. Because ultimately, I mean, there's already a dead NPC on this boss's hands. This bunny gonna die if we end up bringing her. It feels like that's all but guaranteed. But it's interesting, right? Because by having this emotional connection, because something I've been talking about even before this concept was brought up, is how a lot of the NPCs that he interacts with feel just as real as any of the players that he interacts with. So the idea that they can indeed die, and having the ability that players themselves can die but always respawn, it's that nice sweet spot of emotional attachment without taking itself too seriously. We remember that this is a video game first and foremost, but it doesn't change the fact that, similar to watching a favorite show or playing our favorite game, when a character that we care about in the game is dead or in the show is dead, we care and we mourn, but the difference is we can always restart, and if it's a show, we still get them at the beginning of the show. If it's a video game, we potentially can save them in the next playthrough. In an MMORPG like this, they dead, and there's no coming back from that. Now, the intro was rather fun with the boss fight, so what I kind of like is the idea that you can just stumble on other players fighting something that you want to fight, and in doing so, you can actually get some pretty valuable information. So there's these 3 people who walk in and just immediately get absolutely obliterated. And you can see how it could be a frustrating boss because it's a rather lengthy climb. So just imagining you're getting so close to that spider and he throws you back down to the ground, yeah, that clown spider is going to make you feel like a clown. And then all the projectiles, the rocks, and the logs falling on you, just absolutely savage. And then just being like, well, I got some good information, knows where to not get hit because you know this thing's going to drop shit on you. Jumping all the way up there, using fall damage to your absolute potential, stopping the web from it saving itself, using its own projectiles, just really cool. Sunraku feels like a gamer through and through, and these situations feel like they're actually written by someone who's played more than just Super Mario Bros. One time when they were a kid. No, they've actually played some video games in their time, because every time I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is actually really cool. He actually has information. He knows that he can't just walk in and not... because if you walk into this area, you're probably going to assume that the spider's going to jump out at you, not that it's going to drop logs and shit on you. So he gets all this information, and then, like, as soon as I'm saying that, he pretty much, he's like, oh, I got some valuable information. It doesn't seem like much, but all those little moments add up to this actually feeling like a proper video game anime. I think the more I watch of this show, the more I realize, like, it doesn't have to give me any more than what it's currently offering. But then every few episodes, it does that, whether it is the player killing guild, whether it's these unique bosses and the idea of a more interesting end goal, or the NPCs dying and staying dead. There's just so much about this show that continues to be refreshing. It still remains well produced. There was a couple of 3D moments that were a little more sloppy in this episode with the spider, but in general, being 10 episodes into this 25 episode run and it's still being this consistent, I am already excited for Core 2. But let me know what you thought down below, and what do you think of this whole NPC dying plotline, because I think it's honestly a lot more interesting now that it is officially confirmed. But let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more videos to the channel, and like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon. Hey, while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So today we got Ali Hit Me, Kostif Kowski, Selfon Koda, Multimock, John Samant, and Morty Vor. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.